Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
The Rotormouth podcast is an IVM production, and if you enjoyed this episode, you can also check out their other awesome shows like Made in India, hosted by May Thomas. She brings exclusive acoustic sessions and interviews with the best independent musicians in India.
Hi, this is Sanjeev.
And this is Tushar, and welcome to the Rotormouth podcast, where we'll talk about wheeled transportation. Sanjeev, what do we have on the agenda today?
Today we are talking about the Global NCAP.
Global NCAP.
Okay, Global NCAP, what I understand and what I read was it's a company/charitable organization that's into crash testing of vehicles, and they set standards for crash testing all over the world.
Right.
I think they have 12 or 13 offshoots, if I'm not mistaken. And India is going to get one called the Bharat NCAP, which will start in October of this year.
Right.
And they've set some sort of rating system by which they measure at what speed a car should be crashing into a wall. The car is, of course, fitted with a mannequin. And they have decided on the speed. And then based on that, they give you their rating systems.
Right. Okay, so just to clarify that, Global NCAP NCAP stands for New Car Assessment Program. Global NCAP, like Sanjeev said, is a charitable organization and company. Why that is relevant, I don't know, but that's the way it is. In general, they consult the United Nations, and they consult various regulatory bodies across the world to develop ways and means to test cars so that information can be made available to the general public.
Okay, my question here is, before these guys came on board, was there any kind of rating system that was there for crash testing at all, or these are the guys who created the segment?
No, there is already some form of testing available, but you see, this is science that needs to be pushed forward. It needs to move on. It needs to take into account the different conditions today. Speeds keep going up. Road infrastructure keeps improving. Perhaps, you need to take into account weather conditions and things like that in particular countries. All these things are variables that need to be considered in order to have a proper testing methodology. Now, India, from what I understand, does have some kind of crash testing methodology which is deemed to be outdated because they only crash test at 48 kilometers per hour.
No, but my thing here is that 48 kilometers an hour, considering our Indian roads, of course, now there are two, this becomes a bit of a dilemma because at one level you have cars that can touch speeds of 200 plus.
Yeah.
And then you have a crash testing mechanism that is, stopped or pegged at 48 kilometers.
Yeah.
But the average speed on Indian roads, if generally that's what you take where people drive their car most times, would not exceed 35 to 40 kilometers. So if they were to crash it at 48, I think that's fair enough for our roads.
You see, this is, Sanjeev, this is the same argument that some of my friends/acquaintances, I used to call them friends, and now I'm wondering if I should actually call them friends with that kind of argument being made. It's the same kind of argument made against helmets. Okay, I'm not going to wear a helmet. You go and fix the roads because there are so many potholes and there are so many, broken medians and things like that, that I can't really go beyond 40 kilometers per hour in the city anyway. So why should I wear a helmet in the city? So I'm not going to wear it.
No. What I'm saying is, I completely get that. No, the argument what I'm trying to make here is that at 48 kilometers an hour, provided the car has the requisite airbags and safety mechanisms, and you're wearing your seat belt and you're belted up all the time.
Right.
If the crash was to happen, and if you're traveling at these speeds, because this is the speed I'm saying you generally travel at, it does not take away from the fact that you shouldn't have airbags in the car, you shouldn't be wearing seat belts, or whatever else that you have to do. So what I'm trying to get at here is that this rating system that has been started, like in the States, they do it at 64 kilometers, because generally speeds are much higher there.
Right.
So that's the point I'm trying to make, that what are the speeds and how does NCAP want to change the way? I mean, I like where they're coming from, safety and stuff like that. But point is, for every country, the speeds have to differ.
You're right. For every country, the speeds have to differ. But whether they should or shouldn't, it's a more complex and nuanced argument. To give you an example of what this actually means, a car that is tested at 64 kilometers per hour and comes out with a 5-star rating, by definition, it's going to, if you crashed it at 48, it would probably come out with a 5-star rating. If you're crashing it at a higher speed and it's, passing with flying colors, at a lower speed, it's also going to pass with flying colors. So the argument, and this is the justified part of the argument as far as consumers are concerned, the argument that why shouldn't we get the higher standard? Why should we not get the highest possible standard of safety? But then I understand what you're talking about. It may not be, the most relevant for India. But then, okay, so you were talking about 48 kilometers per hour being the typical speed that we are talking about in the city. When was the last time you went from Mumbai to Pune by expressway?
No, I just went 2 weeks back.
2 weeks back. The posted speed limit is I think 80 kilometers per hour.
But nobody's doing 80.
Nobody's doing 80. If you try to do 80 on the expressway, chances are somebody's going to slam into you or try to do a dangerous overtake maneuver from the left side, and it's just going to be a mess. And a typical speed, a comfortable speed, and a speed, in fact, that feels safe on the expressway is about 100. And there are a lot of people that do far more. You should not do that. But what I'm talking about is that 48 kilometers per hour, just because it's something that seems reasonable in the city, it's not something that you can use as benchmark for overall testing.
Okay, what I would like to add to that is, yes, it's about the speed that you crash at, and those speeds can vary. Like you said, we can argue back and forth about these things.
Right.
Point is, there should be a definitive standard of safety in a car, which should be globally acceptable according to me. So if you have to give 4 airbags in the car, they should be a gold standard.
But why should you just said that there should be different, mechanisms and different standards for different conditions in different countries.
Yeah, but see again, going back to the helmet thing that you said that thing about helmets. For me, there are places in the States where people still don't wear helmets.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something they talk about, but you see it where people don't really bother wearing helmets. But for me, the moment you get on a motorcycle, you have to wear a helmet.
Right.
You have to wear safety gear. Same thing goes with a car. The speeds is not something, it's like you said, a far more nuanced, things change, but at least with the basics like an airbag or seat belts and stuff like that, those should be standardized across every single model. And that is something I think we don't do in India.
Okay, let's talk about those standards. Now, again, circling back to what this issue is all about, people are outraging about a 0-star rating given to the Renault Duster. Why was the Renault Duster given the 0-star rating? Number one, Global NCAP has tested at 64 kilometers per hour. They crashed that car at 64 kilometers per hour. 64 kilometers per hour is what they seem to recommend to various NCAPs around the world. And generally speaking, from what I've read, various regulatory bodies do accept that recommendation of crash testing at 64 kilometers per hour. Whether or not that is justified in all markets is, that's a different subject. Like I said, the higher the stringency of the testing and the higher the standard it is, it's better for consumers. Granted, makes sense. That consumer argument also makes sense. Now, for India, for the Indian Renault Duster, number one, they crashed 2 Dusters. One was without airbags and one was with the driver airbag. Without airbags, it got a 0-star rating, which is fairly obvious because today airbags play a very critical role in mitigating injuries in passengers and the driver.
Right.
And if you don't have airbags, you are going to get a very, very poor rating. And that is exactly what happened. When they put the single airbag variant to the test, you got a 3-star rating. It's still not a 4 or a 5-star rating, but it is a 3-star rating. It's hugely better than no stars. Now, understand that there are variants of cars available in India that are specifically designed for the low-cost market. There are people, and this all sort of circles back and boils down to who's willing to pay for it.
Okay.
If you've got an entry price of a vehicle that's significantly higher than your competition, you immediately sort of erase yourself from the mind space of potential buyers. If something in general in a segment costs 5 lakh rupees and you're going to start your product at 6.5 lakh rupees because that's the amount of extra you need to charge to put all these 2 airbags or 1 airbag or 4 airbags or whatever into the car and ABS and EBD and all that, immediately you're sort of pricing yourself out of the market because that sweet spot is gone. And ultimately that's what it's about. It's who's going to pay for it. So I spoke to a Renault spokesperson and they said that we have so many variants of this car, this vehicle. The base model is just there because we need to offer that base model at that attractive, sticker price. he also went on to mention that sales of that model are actually quite low. Very few people actually buy that base model. Most people prefer or opt for the safer models with airbags, etc., and higher models. And I think this is, seen in general in our market. Very few people opt for the base model of any vehicle. It's always the mid or the high model.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, let's take three things, according to me, should be standardized in cars. Now, this is what I would want, a wish list. One is they should always have airbags.
Yeah.
Safety standards should be regulated and standardized. I don't know what they will be across the world, so that you obviously the risks and the chances of you getting killed while driving reduce dramatically.
Again, why across the world? You just said earlier on.
No, what I'm saying is speed is the only thing that you're doing. I'm saying when you test a car, whether you test it in Latin America, you test it in India. When it's tested, all these cars firstly should have airbags. If a manufacturer is selling a car without airbags, I get where you're coming from. You're saying that it's an entry-level thing. It's a price-driven market. It's very competitive. I get all of that. But the point here is that when you're selling a car that is capable of doing speeds of 140, 150, at least that's what I think the Duster can, you should have the basic airbags in it. This is the argument the consumer would make. I'm giving it to you from a consumer perspective.
Well, then as a consumer, I think you'll be quite pleased come October.
Right.
Now, October is when India adopts their new vehicle assessment program, what we're colloquially calling Bharat NCAP.
Okay.
Beyond October, new cars. So if you're launching a brand new model in November, as a manufacturer, you're going to have to align yourself with Bharat NCAP.
Okay.
Now, Bharat NCAP may or may not accept all the recommendations of Global NCAP.
Okay.
So when I said that Global NCAP recommends you crash test your cars at 64 kilometers per hour, the expectation is that most regulatory bodies will accept that recommendation.
You see, this is something we will keep on coming back to in further segments. Right. My thing is, you and me both have put down whatever we feel about the thing. One thing I think both of us can agree on is that cars should have airbags.
Yeah.
Cars should be safer.
Yeah.
Speeds that they are going to be tested at are always going to be debated.
Yeah.
But safety is paramount.
Yeah.
And I think that is something if any organization is doing, and if the manufacturers are playing ball, I think that's a positive step towards road safety. So I think to wrap it up, I think what we both have said is that the standards have to change.
The standards have to change.
Standards have to change.
Stop whining about cars that are failing standards that don't exist yet.
Absolutely.
The standards are coming in. October 2017, new cars will all have to go through Bharat NCAP.
Yes.
Which may or may not have 64 kilometers per hour, probably 56 kilometers per hour crash testing. And October 2019 is when existing cars will have to comply. So the Renault Duster, which is already in the market, don't expect it to get a 5-star, 4-star or rating after October. That's not going to happen. What is going to happen is that they have till October 2019 to comply.
Okay. On this note, we're going to get you some cold water and we're going to get you an ice pack. Okay, let's take a break.
Are you confused about your future education options?
Not sure about whether you should be doing an MBA?
Or if design school is the right fit for you?
Are you worried about how you would finance your education?
Find answers to this and a lot more education-related topics on this podcast.
Hi, my name is Akhil Daswani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of OnCourse.
Hi, my name is Alisha Mashruwala. I'm the CEO and co-founder of OnCourse.
And we both are your co-hosts for the OnCourse podcast. Tune in every Monday on the IVM podcast app or any other podcast app you may like.
Welcome back, and we're going to talk about something that I really, really like ranting about.
You like ranting about everything, yeah?
That's true. But this is one of my particular favorites.
What is this?
Okay, so do you ride a motorcycle?
Yes, I ride a motorcycle.
But you're not riding it these days?
No, I ride it occasionally. I have an old Pulsar 150cc.
Okay. So you're basically doing Ubers these days?
Yes, mainly Ubers and Olas.
Okay.
And when they are unaffordable, I take rickshaws.
Right. So I ride as much as possible because, well, it's slightly faster for me since I come from across town. And what I find particularly useful is that I have a Bluetooth communicator inside my helmet. I don't.
Isn't that scary?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
It may be questionable legally these days because technically you're not supposed to have anything in your ear while you're operating a motor vehicle. At least I've been hauled up by cops, even though I had headphones on. One time I wasn't talking to anybody. I had headphones on because I needed to. I was actually coming to meet you guys, if you recall. This is before we started shooting.
Yeah, we were going to meet up with Flepath when you were supposed to come up.
Exactly. We were going to meet up with them and...
you missed the meeting.
I missed the meeting because I got caught by this cop because I had earphones on. Okay. And I had earphones on primarily because, the speakerphone of the GPS, when it's noisy, it can be a little bit, hard to understand.
So let me understand. If you're on the Bluetooth, you're inside the helmet, the volume travels outside the helmet, is it?
No. What I'm saying is that I have a Bluetooth in my helmet, a Bluetooth communicator in my helmet. And my disclaimer is that it may or may not be entirely legal because apparently you're not supposed to be talking on the phone in any form when you're operating a motor vehicle. I don't know if your car Bluetooth speakers, which are hands-free, your car hands-free is also legal. But certainly I can tell you that anything stuck in your ear, the cops can and will haul you up.
Yeah, because I remember I've been hauled for speaking on hands-free. Yeah. I have a old Honda Accord, a 10-year-old Honda Accord. Sorry, Honda City, not Honda Accord. Okay, so in that...
Honda Accord, I
know. Yeah. I also thought to myself, Honda Accord. Then I realized Honda City.
Super Accord.
Okay. So Honda City, we were using this whole aux thing. You know how the aux, so it essentially you can talk while driving.
Okay.
Yeah, because once you attach it to your phone, so essentially then the speakers become like your mic and you can use the regular Pioneer deck that you have to
so you hear the other party through the speakers, but the microphone is still your phone.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You're the tech guy, you know better.
Indeed.
Okay, so I was doing one of these things while driving and I was stopped by a cop because of course I was animated while speaking. That was my mistake. But then later on he explained to me that even hands-free, technically speaking, is not allowed.
Yes.
What we are selling in cars today.
Yeah.
And I think this is the topic what you want to rant about.
Not exactly. But you know what? That's a rant for another day. Okay. But anyway, coming back to the point, the rant of the moment is Bluetooth in cars. See, I like, the point I was getting to is that I like having this Bluetooth capability because there are certain situations where you want to be communicating or you want to be accessible to somebody at least by voice, and you want to do it in a safe way so that you're not distracting yourself from the task at hand, which is not killing yourself or pedestrians, right? Whether it's on a bike or it's in a car. On a bike, there are some situations, for example, if you're doing a group ride or you're coordinating with somebody and you need to figure out where they are or where you are or where we are going or whatever, you want to be able to communicate. Anyway, point is, Bluetooth, it's there, it's out there, it works. Whether or not this is overzealous regulation, I don't know. But coming to the rant that I'm trying to get to.
Oh, you aren't ranting so far?
No, not yet.
My God, what is this? 3 minutes into this and you are not doing...
And where are we going to go from here? Bluetooth in cars. Have you ever tried the voice recognition in any of these modern cars? There's always a little voice recognition button which you can press. If you long press it, typically in modern phones, whether it's Android or an iPhone, it'll sort of activate the relevant voice control. So in Apple devices...
You activate Siri.
Yes. Siri will go boop boop and you can talk to Siri.
Okay, no, I haven't used Siri because I know better not to use.
And you have a 10-year-old Honda Accord, which does not have that facility.
No, Honda City.
Honda City. Oh, yes, sorry.
I wish I had
balcony to utar ke
stalls में आ गया.
हाँ, stall में.
Is it stalls or outside stalls also?
नहीं, outside stall नहीं है. Outside stall वो मतलब कि फिर
upper stall, lower stall.
Upper stall, lower stall.
So
outside stall is actually illegal. That's like तूने watchman को खिलाया और तो ऐसा दरवाजे में खड़े रह के सीटी मार रहा है.
I think that okay, fine. That is another visual for another day. Okay.
So you're saying you haven't used this voice recognition feature on modern cars?
No, I have used, as I said, the hands-free in modern cars. I was driving one where you could use the hands-free. The problem with the hands-free is don't shift around and shake because
I like to fidget a lot. Yeah.
No, but don't.
You're making me sit in a soundproof room with headphones on for like 1.5 hours. You can't expect me to not fidget.
Okay. So yeah, I drove a car for 6-7 months, so with hands-free. Like you said, it was very, very convenient. But also, I agree with where the cops and the legal system comes from, is when you're talking on these cars, and as we are seeing on a daily basis, like just yesterday afternoon, I saw one guy trying to back up his car.
Yeah.
And he wasn't focused on the road. It's not that he was doing high speeds, but he's talking so animatedly. So he forgotten that he's driving a car. So my thing is, this hands-free is a little scary in our traffic environment.
Okay. So you kind of agree that you should completely sort of rule it out. It doesn't matter if it's in your ears, if it's over your ears, you're using neck buds, or it's just your car's hands-free system. You think that there is merit in this regulation that you cannot use I
think there's merit keeping in mind our traffic conditions, which are highly unregulated. There is no discipline of any form. So I think definitely, because here you are facing situations which you wouldn't do in other countries. You wouldn't have people running across the road. You wouldn't have bullock carts. You wouldn't have all of this.
So you're saying vocal distraction is a problem?
Absolutely.
So then you shouldn't be talking to your passengers either, right?
No, I mean, ideally speaking, that's how we were taught how to drive. We were told not to speak to our passengers.
Really?
Yeah, that's how
That's such an antisocial driving instructor, man.
No,
so
he told me, he says that even if you're speaking to them, you shouldn't be looking at them.
Which is fair enough.
I completely agree. So we are going to travel in a car in silence.
Yeah, absolute silence. Pin drop silence. Nobody talks. This is an exam hall.
Exam hall situation has happened. We have agreed on this. So this is a complete new segment we created.
This is a superb new segment. I completely disagree with this. It's nonsense.
Absolutely. That was my intention in the first place.
You have succeeded.
Thank you so much.
Superb. Can I come to the point now?
Oh, you still want to make a point?
There's still a point to be made.
There is no point to be made anymore.
अरे यार ब्लूटूथ के बारे में बात करने वाले
और next segment, next episode में बात कर लेंगे. Today we've created a whole new segment. So that's it for today. We are Rotormouthing on Facebook and Twitter. Like our page, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to the podcast on the IVM podcast app or any other podcast app that you like.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out
IVM Podcasts
to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.